Hello and welcome. My name is Vex. Today is Saturday. Happy Saturday. I don't know. It might actually be Sunday when this goes live. Anyway, we're live. Today, we're taking a look at a couple of Fateless videos. We're going to react to the most recent sort of like community, hey, we want these things in the game type thing. We did a similar thing when Simon did one a couple weeks ago. That was super fun to get into and talk about. And then I'm going to go over some tidbits from the most recent podcast about exploits, speedrunning, and player created sort of like mods and things like that. So let's get into it. Maybe we'll find some way to talk about Wukong.
Hey everyone, Susie here with Fateless. For today's video, we're going to dive into a discussion around
okay.
some interesting YouTube comments. There's some really creative ideas here. So in case you guys don't know, I probably should start. Hi, I'm Susie. I am one of the community managers for Fateless. I'm also a content creator, and I do have Bell's palsy now. So if I look like a derpy pirate, that's why. But anyway, in a recent video,
Susie does a lot of gotcha stuff. Most recently, there's like a King Arthur game that I think I want to try just because it seems like a good amount of the Fateless team, or at least the Fateless community, is really into. It's very much the same space as Watcher of Realms, Dragonair, Godforge, all these games.
Simon actually went through some game ideas that the Discord community came up with. There were some really great ones, and we kind of expanded on it whether or not they would fit our game. So I thought it would be fun to go through and pick some YouTube comments that did similar, but we're going to do it a little bit different this time. I really want to pick some interesting ideas, but then further ask you to expand on these ideas. What do you think? How could we fit this to our game? Or is this
Everyone will be using this ad blocker on
This is not a good idea. Ads, please take them away.
No, don't do it type situation. I really want to hear your thoughts. And yeah, when it comes to YouTube videos, we do look at every comment. Simon reads every comment and replies to most, of course. I read through every single comment myself, and we really do care and we want to see your feedback. So that's my challenge to you guys now. Let's flood this comment section with creative ideas from you guys for our
The Discord has a special
and maybe some of these will actually have an influence in the
like
game.
channel for,
of course, little disclaimer, obviously, I'm not really at liberty to say if some of these things are already being planned or not, or if it's something we can 100% implement or not. But for sake of discussion, let's inspire, right? Let's inspire. So let's dive in. All right, so first up here, varied backgrounds. This was a comment from Zipster. I love this one. I actually shared it with the staff this morning. So he says, love these videos. So much work is going into one character that people don't realize. She's definitely my favorite so far. So this was the Hell video, of course.
Oh,
wish she had
Halloween
a darker background, though. I know they are faction specific, but it does take away from the character. So this is a really interesting thought.
So this is like when you're
you're
looking at a character in your like character log.
We are doing things by faction, which might be by region, like what part of the world are they near or in or whatever, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean are they a normal human that would live in a village, or are they this dark creature that lives in the underworld? Those are two very different feels and experiences. So my first thought was maybe the idea of night and day, right? Maybe we could keep the same environment, but make it super dark and mysterious. Maybe add some atmosphere.
So I think somebody in the comments had mentioned this specifically, or talking about the day and night, like you could have a day-night cycle in the game that just, is a subtle way to, you have two backgrounds when you look at a character. I don't know if I have the picture of Hell handy, but like, when you bring up a character, it shows the background it's the same for everybody who is in that faction. It's going to be the same for the Asgard people, whether you look at, Zeus or Hermes or whoever else. but if it's like day night, at least depending on what time of the day you're looking at, it could be different. I think having a specific background for a specific character would be something that's like exclusive to like a mythic style character, or if there's like an equivalent of like a void legendary, like not only is it a legendary character, but it's a legendary character that's even harder to get, or like something that's event specific, because otherwise you're making you're making one background for like 20 characters. That's the commons and uncommons. And then you're making a specific background for like every other character. It just seems like the game is not at that scale.
Etheric fog or moons or something? Overlays? What do you guys think? How would you want to see implementation on these character screens, these hero roster screens, to really make it feel like it's fitting a specific character? We're going to have, like I said, normal humans. We're going to have gods. We're going to have dark, creepy creatures. So
I think the backgrounds that are in the game now are just going to be temporary anyway. I'm going to pull up Raid Shadow Legends. Hey, so if we're looking at a character from the Shadowkin, let me go to the. Okay, whatever. We look at banner guards, and like the background is very much like you're in the courtyard of something. Let's look at a character who might not look like a typical. Are there any that are non-typical humanoids? Maybe not. Bannerlords might have been a bad. Oh, maybe let's talk about orcs. Maybe orcs is got some different ones. Okay, you look at Artok, and it's not really like there's not much going on. It just looks like a campground, and the background's just faded, and that's just like a common feature. Like you see some details up close, but it's mainly just colors. So that way, when you go into a character like Terror Beast that's not a humanoid, it still fits because let's look at somebody who has a totally different color palette. Like the background still fits because I mean the character is designed in such a way that it fits the faction, but the backgrounds are very generic. I think Undead's a pretty good one too, right? Like yeah, we've got some undead things, but the backgrounds are just like essentially color gradients. And then we look at, I don't know, Bloat Wraith. It's the same thing. Let's look at a different color palette. That wasn't a good example. Thought crime. I don't know. I think you can create a background that's very much a detailed work of art that I guess it's detailed in the foreground, and the background is just where the different colors come in. Maybe this is a little bit better because we have things like Saoirse and whatnot. So like as long as the characters fit the faction and the faction background is like generic enough that it fits the themes and the worlds. I don't know if I'm explaining this well at all, but it doesn't need to be something so complex where you need a different one for each character. Like, can you imagine how much more each character would cost if they had a separate background? But at the very least in Raid, I mean, in other gacha games, they just sort of do like flat color backgrounds or like gradient backgrounds. They don't even go into like detail of adding like a tree or something. I think having the same background for all of the faction or all of the characters in a given faction is fine. Like even this is like the same as the orcs. It's just a little camp, detailed in the foreground, blurry in the background, just to give an idea of, you know, what this faction is all about. And it fits no matter what character is in front of it. Turns out most of Raid just has humanoids. We don't have very many like weirdo looking characters. Here we got Bombas. It's the same thing. It's literally the same pattern in each of the backgrounds. I think the trick also is that you can't go back too far. You still want the character to be the focus. That's why I say I think the backgrounds in Godforge right now are still works in progress. They seem very far away, like the characters are a bit smaller, and they seem like they're at there's no detail in the foreground stage. So like, I think at most it should be a day and night thing, where depending on what time of the day you're in, you look at this character and you see a different background. Otherwise, you could add in cosmetic backgrounds or backgrounds that are like event specific or holiday specific or whatever.
In what ways do you think would add to the game to improve that experience and really making you feel immersed? I think at least making the situation where it looks like hell's at night. It's dark, it's gloomy, it's got a feel to it. Maybe it's a change of color tones. I don't know. But that's something that I thought was a really perfect idea. And it's something I shared right away with the staff. So what do you guys think? How would you like to see the mood change when you're viewing different characters? All right, next up here we have this real world inspiration. So this is Cleo McKenzie. I'm gonna butcher names, I'm sorry. But this is related to our last beta video. Great update, thanks Simon. It's a little thing, but I have to say that I really like the look of the Japanese environment.
Yeah, especially, Non, to your point, especially if it's, you have somebody who is versed in making set pieces, detailed set pieces like they do for their characters or their set design or whatever, to make the foreground around the character the detail bit, and then the background can just, you don't have to spend human hours on that, and it could be theoretically refined to fit whatever character, but that's a
big plus
minus
for
money on
Godforge that your
labor.
aesthetic is tied to real world cultures and traditions. It gives the game a lot of flavor. Okay, we have the Japanese faction Kojiki, right? There are obvious architectural things you're gonna notice that look like it's really in Japan. There's going to be things that stick out like that. What about, okay, the Aru faction? We better see some pyramids, right? It's Egypt. What other examples
We just
do you
talked
guys
about
have
Aru
related
yesterday.
to our 10 factions? So that's something I think would be really fun to hear about, some atmospheric things in the environment that you really hope to see based on the regions that we have included. So obviously things are a bit regional based like we said in the last comment, but I really want to know what sticks out to you. What's going to make you be excited to be like, oh my gosh, they actually included that. I really love the feel of this.
I mean, I really like the Bifrost roads when we were talking about the Asgard faction. I was talking about the Asgard faction earlier. Did I say Olympus gods in the Asgard faction? I'm pretty sure I did. Whoops. Anyway, but like, I mean, I feel like each faction has been portrayed. I think the biggest one that I'm curious about is the Babylon faction. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I think I know the least about that. And like I said before, I want them to reveal more about the Jade faction, which is the Chinese faction, because I want to see what their interpretation of the differences between Chinese and Japanese architecture, because often they are portrayed as very similar. And in some aspects they are, but I'm curious to see how they plan on differentiating them.
This environment. Let us know in the comments below. All right, now we're on to a topic that's related to the aesthetics of heroes. So this comment is...
I already know. I pre-watched this, but I pre-watched it like a week ago. This video is a little old. God.
It's from Leslie.
I'm going to hard disagree with this.
Dukoing. Sorry, I'm probably butchering that again. Make skins matter is the topic. So this is a hot topic. Okay, so this person says, if you do skins in the game for champs like Raid or Watcher, please be more like Watcher.
Yeah.
Where it actually improves the heroes. Don't try to waste the money to just buy these things to make our heroes look cooler.
So I'm gonna speak a little bit before Susie does. Susie has a different opinion from me. Watcher of Realms, as I've been playing recently, I realized that there are skins in the game. I think there's more skins in that game than there are in Raid. The skins are like $30 or something like that, and they give you stat bonuses. Like one of my like 5-star legendary characters is like pretty good, and she has a skin that ups her attack and HP by like not a incredible amount. It was like 2% or something like that. I wish I had the game open and I would showcase it, but it's not like buy this skin and your character does 100% more damage or something like that. But there are stats tied to skins. So much so that during the most recent Halloween event, there's a Halloween skin tied to one of the epic tanks called Baron. He's like a headless knight guy. And there's a skin that you could get just by using like the event currency to get. And it was like a pumpkin jack-o'-lantern type guy. And I was like, okay, it's a no-brainer for me to get this. It's literally a stat increase. I could use my in-game currency to get, a new avatar or a couple of skill points or whatever. Or I could use it to buy a skin that is a permanent stat increase that others will miss out on. That to me is, and Watcher is a totally different game, right? Watcher is a tower defense game. There is PvP in that game, but it's like I don't really think that that's like why people play it. Maybe I'm not late game enough, but especially in games that have a high PvP focus, having skins that affect your stats and improve the character's stats is the definition of pay to win. You're telling me that because I'm free to play, I now have a higher hurdle to jump to beat this team of all mythic characters plus their mythic skins that cost $100 each that give them 5% attack bonus. Like, how is there is no balancing there. There is no fairness there. There is no it's literally a no-brainer. Like do not do this. It's been a thing in gaming for like 30 years. Don't make cosmetics that affect gameplay. There are things that come into games like, oh, this skin affects the character's silhouette. So the skin might be cosmetic, but it affects them in-game. So that way, people who use it have an in-game advantage. Like, imagine a skin on a character in an FPS game, and the skin makes the character's silhouette into like a paper-thin character, right? Everybody would use that because, like, you couldn't shoot them. You couldn't kill them in this FPS game. Like, you can't have skins that affect gameplay at all. Literally at all. There are skins in Dead by Daylight that are marked pay to win because they are darker toned. And the game is a dark game. So you could theoretically easier hide in bushes or things like that, right? Like, that's the extent of, like, how much people don't like pay to win in cosmetics. Like, I think, I don't know what else I can say. I think that it is a totally greedy move, because if I'm playing a game and I see a skin that has stats attached to it, it is like I need to get it. Like if I want to be the best, I have to get it. And if you tie that to a bundle or spending money in any way, that is just 1000% greed and nothing else. And your game will be not balanced and your game will die. It's as simple as that.
Do you agree? This one is definitely a hot topic. Personally, as a player, I think a game needs to go one of two ways. Either you do a skin and it's purely aesthetic only, or you do a skin and it has a real stat and that is what it is. I actually don't like that Watcher has like a plus 0.07% or what, plus 0.7%, plus 1%. You're like, why even put the stat on there first place? You just make people angry. But some people want.
I mean, yeah, like if you really want it, like sure, I'll buy a $30 skin if it makes me do, 10,000 extra DPS. Like, give me 100% extra attack, base attack. Let me buy this new. let me buy this new Arbiter skin that gives me plus 200 speed. Like, fuck it, why not? Like.
The stats on skins. They want to buy something that matters. So what do you think, guys? This is in no relation to how we're going, again, the direction of our game. I don't know our stance on monetization of skins.
I think this might actually be something that I would want to directly hear from the devs about. Like the people who are making the game design decisions. I would want to know this now, because this might be, I don't want to be over dramatic, but this might be something that I'd be, like a make or break it kind of thing for me.
Regarding how the skins are actually going to be, if it's 100% aesthetic.
It's also like if you tie stats to your cosmetics, I feel like it devalues your cosmetics. Like you're admitting that what you're creating isn't good enough for people to spend money on, so you have to tack on stats to it to make up that missing value. Like, don't devalue yourself. Like, if you believe in the product that you are creating, do it.
Only, or if there will be any sort of bonus at all. I don't know yet.
Yeah, no,
but that
exactly.
might be something we have to talk about as a company. So definitely let us know your thoughts on this below. I think it's a really hot topic. It gets mentioned a lot. And like I said, I have my personal opinions.
But also, like, don't just do recolors.
As a gamer, I think it should just be
janitorly or
skin. You just want to see something look cool, so you're willing to spend or to grind an event to get that because it looks cool. And I think it's a nice way for games to monetize sometimes in a pretty
uncommon only
way that doesn't affect the free-to-play versus pay-to-win experience.
Uncommon only dungeons,
I like skins,
please.
But are we even doing skins?
I need armor.
Are we even doing skins? That's a whole other topic on its own, right? We haven't even discussed if we're actually doing skins yet. So we should definitely get a little bit of input there. What do you guys think on the topic of skins?
Yeah, I was thinking about League reskins. So like League recolors, when the game was still pretty young. Before you could really do like chromas or anything like that, it was just, here's a skin for $10. That's the same character, looks the same except he's red.
Skins and of stats. All right, and one other just super quick, very simple comment here that I actually thought would be a fun discussion as well.
Yeah, I had thought about
in game. What do you guys like? What don't you like? I really want to know because this is something I'm very torn on. This person, let's see, Avina C says, add voice lines to each of them also, please. I think this is in relation to when we were showing the animations of the heroes while they're fighting. Add voice lines. Or are voice lines annoying? I think this is one of those things that can go either way. Where do you like to see a voiceover in a game?
I'm probably not going to play this game with sound on.
Do you like to have the story narrated with a voice actor? Or do you just skip it? Do you like to have a tutorial narrated? What about that? What about a tutorial having a voiceover that as you go through it, they're telling you what to do with an actual voice actor?
I think it's fine to have a character like the Arbiter who like guides you through the game, or when new things come out. Like that's fine to be like fully narrated when it's... I think about Arknights, and like I think I would enjoy the Arknights story a little bit more if it wasn't just walls and walls and walls and walls of text. Like if any of it was like truly voice acted, I think I'd be more interested. And like I care about the Zenless story or the Star Rail story, and that's fully voice acted. So I don't know. I don't know how deep they plan on going story wise. I don't know if it's going to be like in Raid. There's only sort of like surface level lore. So yeah, Heroes of the Storm they had voice actors, but they also had like typical like when you get hit, like ugh, things like that. But yeah. I mean, like I would know more about the Arknights story if it was voice acted because I would sit and listen to it. But yeah, I guess if you make your sound design good enough, people like me will keep it on. Like I keep my volume on for most games. It's just not like Raid or Watcher or anything like that. Or like in Heroes of the Storm, you had like different announcers. I think the same was in it might have been the same in StarCraft. I can't remember. But that was like something that you could work towards or you could buy, like you can monetize that. I think at the very least, if there's going to be voice lines, it should be like a focused thing. Like if you don't plan on doing voice lines and like a huge story, make it so where like maybe just the legendary characters have voice lines. And like quips that they say with other characters. And like maybe if you have them tied to your home screen in some way, they like greet you when you log in the game or something like that. That could also be good for giving, some relatively unknown voice actors a little bit of collaboration. I think that could be cool.
That's something I've only seen a couple times.
Or like a chance to add community members.
When a character does their animation.
I've never tried to make professional monkey sounds, but I'm sure I could grab a staff and I could do some voice acting.
Do you want to hear them say certain things? Do you want to have that like
funny
line
right.
that you always hear? Or does that get monotonous? You're like, okay, I've heard you say that same thing 20 times. I don't want to hear it anymore. Or should it be reserved for something special? Maybe when you summon a character, there's a special voiceover that they have, a line that they say when you summon them. So that way it kind of feels like you're so excited to hear that special line when you finally get that character you want. What about that? I'd love to hear some thoughts on the topic.
When you summon a character in Genshin, or I guess in Raid or whatever, you just sort of like see them. In Star Rail, it's also kind of just like a picture of them. At least in Zenless, there's like a huge animation, and like in Watcher, they've got like cinematics for each of these like legendary characters. It's a little bit more interesting.
Voice lines in games as well. All right, guys, this is just a simple one. I really thought this was a fun discussion. And don't worry, Simon will be back next week. I always have comments about that. He's still here. He's just busy. They're doing some convention fun stuff. And
he was in Belgium for something?
So hope you guys enjoyed this little conversation.
Okay. I want to check out the comments. Great vid. I do like voiceover one-liners, but after some time they can get annoying. That's kind of like if you have voiceovers tied to ultimates, you would want the ability to turn them off. Or like, you only hear this once per time you've opened the game for the day, like the first time. Character lore revealed through mini animatics, voice lines rather than just a wall of text. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Pool parties and you freak out when you hear the character's voice lines. Yeah, and if there's like different voices tied to skins too, that could be a good community thing and a good thing to look forward to. I'm full stop against skins having gameplay changes, unless you do something that's like an event, like you give this character. Yeah, I don't plan on looking that on stream. Like maybe you have a skin for like a limited time for an event that's like this changes the way your character acts and like takes them over. Like that could be fun. A viable wish list. I hope that Godforge is going the way of banners. I really, really hope. Day and night cycle, yep. If you add voiceover, you need to add an option to mute the voice. True. Avid gotcha player. Real world cultures. Southwestern Europe. Okay. Purely cosmetic skins. Checking unit in gallery, whatever is first summoned. Yeah, you just really need to be able to turn off the ultimate voice line after some time. Interesting. That was a good one. This was really short. I said in the content creator Discord, I was like, Susie, what the heck? There was only 3 things to talk about. I want more juice. I want to keep talking about this stuff. She's like, we keep it short for a reason. I was like, okay, well, it is what it is. Okay, quickly, I want to skim through some of this. I don't really know how much we could really get into it. The discussion is really here. Well, let's talk about how much I think that ads should be banned. The discussion here is talking about. Well, let's read the frickin' title. Doing this in our game could get you banned, and they're talking about different glitches. Like there's some glitches. Let's listen to the seer bug. Earlier in Raid, there was a seer bug.
It's always a tough situation to decide because it's kind of a judgment call, and each situation is very, very different. Like, I know back in the early days of Raid, the first 6-7 months that the game was out, there was an exploit where people could one-shot the final stage of the spider with seer. And so people were doing like 5-second spider 20 runs with a level 1 seer. And they were able to get all of this awesome accumulation of accessories and jewelry on their account if they were lucky enough to have seer early in the game. And everybody who didn't, which was me, I didn't have seer. Everybody who didn't was just screwed and missed out on all of that accumulation. And it's like, so did the people who did that, should they be punished? Their account be like rolled back? Because it does put you in an advantage. There is PvP in the game. There is tournaments. There is all these sorts of different things where you compete with other players. And it's very clearly not a way that something was intended to be in the game. It was like a game-breaking bug with seer. You know, I don't know. Like it's Plarium ended up doing nothing, and it was just, well, if you had seer, you're lucky, and you got to do a bunch of super easy spider runs. Well, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I guess it depends whose fault it is. Like in that case, it sounds like it was Plarium's fault. They released it with that bug in the game. So
I mean, they didn't know that the bug existed.
Stuff like that, like if it doesn't get fixed, a lot of bugs or exploits just become part.
I think Dead by Daylight has really good fixes for this type of thing. They recently, I say recently, maybe in the past 2 years, they've implemented something where most of the aspects of their game sort of have like a oh shit switch where they can quickly, because it's a live service game, right? So if they release something or if something comes up or something just breaks for whatever reason, they could hit this switch and just that aspect of the game will be turned off. And I don't know, I imagine that is a programming nightmare. DBD, I think, is built in Unreal, so I don't know how much of a thing that could be in Unity. Who knows? But I do know that it's super effective. Like, if it comes out that there's an exploit with one of the killers or one of the survivors or something, they just flip a switch and it says up on the main screen, like, hey, for now, You can't use this, and that's it.
Like look at like Smash Brothers Melee, like the way.
Like if Polarium sees that, you know, content creators are making this thing, and like people are talking about, hey, Seer is busted, and they can see on stats like, hey, people really shouldn't be doing this content this fast. They can just hit a button and say, oh, Seer can't be used right now. Or like it could even be as minute as like you can't use Seer in this specific dungeon or whatever.
Dashing and all that wasn't intended.
That's I think Magic Christmas Land, but
well, with the mechanics of the game is the way it worked. You could
theoretically,
it becomes like
when a game is being designed and built at the beginning is when you try to make that sort of system.
A learned feature of the game that, you know, it takes you to a higher level when you master it. It's difficult to do, and like it's part of the fun of the game. And like I mean, in this case, like yeah, you're farming your spider, but it was just like, well, maybe that was just like the.
So I think if that Seer issue was on a legendary character, especially a legendary character that they were trying to push, Raid, specifically Polarium, would not address it. And that's coming into play like literally this week. There was a Shadow Hydra buff that was not talked about, and it essentially breaks every ally attack team, which is how people were maintaining their Hydra DPS post-nerf. And literally the only teams that are doing crazy numbers now are Trunda teams. And it's like, are you kidding me? And like everybody is ringing the alarms. Like everybody's like, are you kidding me, Polarium? Like you have done so much to say, oh yeah, don't worry about Hydra teams, it'll be fine. And then they have events that where like you can have a higher chance of getting Trunda or something like that. And then they do this shadow nerf to every team that doesn't involve Trunda. And it's like
getting a void epic character. Like you get Man-Eater, you get to do unkillable clan boss. If you don't have anything close to that, like as a new player, and you get that, that's probably
ultimately, I think that they should have. I think Godforge should have in it on the back end some way for oh shit buttons to exist. Who knows how? I'm not a programmer. That's not for me to figure out. That's my take on that. But if a bug is implemented into the game, if a bug is found in a game, and people choose to exploit it, I don't necessarily think that those people in a case like a Seer bug, where people early on in the game are gaining a time advantage, I don't think that. I don't know. This is a hard one. Because they're going to use more energy. They're going to spend more money to get more energy. To use this situation to their benefit. I think anybody who knows about it and who has the wherewithal to do it will do it, because that is the most optimal thing to do, right? I don't think that you should punish the players who are doing it outright. I don't think that you should like roll back their account because that's time wasted. I think you just acknowledge that, hey, this is a thing. Yeah, we're working on it. This isn't intended. And maybe at that point, people will be like, oh, yeah, they're working on it. I won't do it, but they're still going to do it. You just have to work on it quickly to squash the bug. Like that's where a turn off the dungeon. Like, yeah, it sucks, but that's like a main priority fire that needs to be put out, right? So this is talking about speedrunning, which appeals to me.
Because if you're using a third-party program, I think that is where it kind of draws the line. Anything within the game, you're playing the game, and yeah, you're doing these crazy exploits. But like you know, I kind of look at it like, you know, like the speedrunning scene. Like, there's not like a game in the world where people speedrun it and play through it the correct way. They always abuse some of it.
So this is actually just false. I'm sorry, I forget this person's name. I'm very bad with names. I watched this like a couple days ago when it came out. There are glitchless speedruns where you are meant to play the game as intended without doing things that are considered by the community to be glitches or bugs or exploits, and just beat the game as fast and as best routed as possible. This is most apparent in the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Let me bring it up quick. Here we go. We've got any percent, 3 minutes and 47 seconds. My God, that was 3 months ago that record was made. I remember when any percent was 17 minutes. Then we've got 100%, so you complete the entire game, collect everything, do all the dungeons, all that, whatever. 3 hours. All dungeons, whatever. I don't know what this is. Then we've got glitchless. Run through the game as fast as possible. You don't need to collect everything. 3 hours. And there are, community guidelines essentially that have been made to determine what something is glitchless. Or what it means to be glitchless.
Well, dang, and like that's like part of the skill of it, and that's like what I guess like these speedrunners records are based on, is exploiting. So it's like,
well, they'll usually have different categories. They'll have like any percent, they'll have glitchless, they'll have console, they'll have emulate. Yeah, they have all sorts.
I know they do, but it's like I don't think they usually. There's almost none where it demands like a, I don't know, proper word for that, like a kosher run or something, where it's like you have to only play by the correct, like in the spirit of the game. You can't abuse, because then you're just like, well, what actually was a glitch?
It's decided by the community.
Jump higher, like technically a glitch if I just time it right, like
or something like muta stacking in StarCraft. Like is
that
a glitch?
Is that a glitch? Is it intent? Like it looks weird, and it seems like
I kind of want to play StarCraft 2 again.
Happen, but it works within the mechanics. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I don't know. I think again, especially if it's a live service.
And
they're part of like the deal of the players. Hey, we're gonna continually give you money, beyond what you'd normally expect of like. Well, a game these days like $60-70, but we're gonna give you just whatever. We're gonna let you take advantage of us through your casino monetization model, in exchange for constant, consistent updates for this game. Which as a player, to me that is worth it. Like to get updates like that, I would hope that if something is not intended or breaks the game, they would be very quick to at least update that in a live service game. I guess. So like an older game, like maybe which Age of Empires were you talking about? It was
I played the most recent one, Age of Empires 4, and it is a current bug that you could the viewers could go look up right now. But
so they were talking about a bug that's currently in Age of Empires 4, where one of the factions that you can play as, there is a exploit there, which might not be an exploit. It might just be the way the game is made, where you can gain infinite gold. And it is only available through this one faction, or this one group. And some people who use that, you play against them, and they're going to do it, and you just sort of have to live with that. Or they have like a honor system where they're like, yeah, I'm not going to do that, and that's like a current ongoing thing.
Being supported though.
What's that? Yeah, it's still being supported. Yeah, they're still patching it.
They'll patch it out. So yeah, I mean,
they'll definitely patch it out. Yeah.
This latter season's probably gonna be screwed up, but it's like, I mean, what can you do? Like, you could, I guess, asterisk anyone who got first place.
Well, I'll tell you what I would do, because it's for the Civilization Rus. They can get infinite gold. If I was Microsoft and I was, one of the like game directors for Age of Empires 4, I would just disable the Civilization Rus until we fix the bug. I would just be like, okay, Rus is disabled. You can't
exactly
pick
what I was talking about.
We're gonna work on fixing this bug for a week or two. And try to keep some ladder integrity that way, because there's like 16 civilizations. Okay, we're just disabling Rus. We'll fix them, and they'll be back in a week or two.
Yeah.
I think this also comes back to what I was talking about their current release schedule and how far ahead they're thinking, how much time they give each legendary character and each epic character or whatever, in terms of creation and balance. Because if they plan on adding normalized modes to the game, especially in PvP, there could be a world where they pump out a new character, put them into the normalized mode pool, and maybe it's random and you don't get to choose. Maybe it's like building a Hearthstone deck or something where it's random. And if you get this one legendary, you just win. There's like literally no point in facing against this person because they just win. Like, that's a balancing issue. And if you find that there's like maybe an exploit between two characters, you could just shut one off.
You know, like, hey, this is intended, it's getting fixed. Like, you would expect that then, I guess. So it's not like, well, I mean, you wouldn't ban people for doing it or anything like that. Like, oh, you shouldn't have exploited our mistake.
I think the things that are bannable, and they talk a little bit. Actually, I don't know. Man, I wanna go through. Okay. They talk about bots. I want to go through most of this video, but we can't. There's not enough time. I think that the truly bannable things are the ones that are set up with a direct way. If I'm thinking like scripts, like I think of World of Warcraft, and there's scripts of, 30, 40, 50 accounts that are all going and killing the same mob 24 hours a day, gaining gold passively to be funneled into, one account that then sells it for real life money. Like that type of behavior is, I think, the bannable offense. Yeah, multi-blocks. I mean, there's scripts that would run on those to do those, or like I guess they would be bots. I guess they'd be bots at that point. I don't know what that would look like in a game like Godforge. It might just be, that might come in with like PvP or something like that. Mouse macros are technically illegal. Yeah, like if you set up, I think you can set up in Raid Shadow Legends RSL helper. I think you can do mapping. So where it's like, you have it click here every 10 seconds, and it just like runs through a dungeon like all night. And you don't have to worry about multi-battles or whatever. I think something like that. It might not be an RSL helper. It might be like BlueStack or something like that. I don't know. That's where things get really iffy. At least for me.
Like if it's a company's fault and they screw it up in their, I guess, the execution or implementation of a system, and it is exploitable like that. Almost everything is exploitable in some way.
You're wasting tons of money.
You're wasting my freaking time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, if there was somebody who they pick Roos, they play 100 games, they gold exploit every game, they get rank 1 on the ladder just by hacking.
I think that is the company's fault.
Through everybody by cheating. Man, I don't know.
I don't think that's cheating.
I guess I don't know the corporate answer, but just the gamer in me feels like I would want to see them banned.
The gamer in me says that I should pick that civilization every game and do it too. Like if I'm worried about being number 1, I'm going to do what it takes to be number 1. And if that's the best option, that's the best option. That might not be the honorable option, but insert some memorable quote about honor and winning. I don't know.
like I would be okay with that.
Yeah. Well, I look at it almost like they better step in and fix that, or else it's just going to ruin the game. Because if that's what people
you
are
can't let that
doing,
kind of thing
everyone's
go
rules
on.
and the whole ladder is just infinite gold, and it's like not even a game anymore. Everyone's just going to quit playing it. So it's one of those things where it's like they need to take action quick to save the game, and I don't think that action is punishing the player for, I guess, for as far as they know, playing the game as intended, maybe Ruse is supposed to have.
I have no idea.
infinite gold.
I have no idea. They talk about it very briefly. I don't believe it's a glitch. I could be totally wrong.
Historically accurate. I don't know. Maybe
It's not like, so they had talked about something else that was a raid bug that was like, if you, before you entered into the dragon dungeon, you clicked on your character portrait and then you clicked on something else and then you went to dragon and you would do like infinite damage. That's a glitch, right? You're not meant to do that sequence of things. If you do it and it's repeatable, like, that is a glitch. That's a bug that needs to be fixed. I don't think that is the case for this civilization thing or Age of Empire.
that needs to be addressed.
No.
I guess I don't know the corporate answer.
And everyone's Ruse in the whole lab. As they know, playing the game as intended, maybe Ruse is supposed to have infinite gold. It's like historically accurate. I don't know. Maybe print money. Like, I don't.
Just an amazing economy.
In real life. Like, why wouldn't it happen in
Yeah.
Age of
Then it
Empires
becomes a balancing
so
thing.
That's very glass half full. Oh, they're innocent. They don't know that they're. Yeah.
No, I think ultimately you can't punish players for this. Okay, so there's a ton more to talk about for this. They go into like the Hell Hades optimizer, auto selling things, and other like glitch videos, because a couple of the people from the Fateless team had made glitch videos in the past for like Raid Shadow Legends and things like that. But we've already been talking for way too long. At some point, we're gonna go through. I think I might. I would like to do it on stream, but I think it'll be us together watching all of the Fateless podcasts back and reacting to them sort of in the moment. These videos would be terribly, terribly long because I like to pause and talk forever. But let me know if that might be relatively interesting. I think this is like episode 49 or something like that. There's a ton, maybe not 49, maybe like 29. I don't know. There's a ton of Fateless podcasts. They're all about an hour long. They all cover different topics and different games and bring in different guests. And here and there we talked about some, but there's tons of topics covered, so I'd like to go over them. Anyway, this video's gone on far too long. Thank you for watching. If you have made it this far, I appreciate you, and I hope your 1.5 times speed is slow enough for you to understand me here. Make sure to like and subscribe, and check out the most recent video on the Aru faction and talking about characters that we would like in the Aru faction. No spoilers. Have a good night. See you in the next one. Bye!